are listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, hosted by Steve Jenny and his satanic assistant, Alex Houdini, both of whom can't go into churches without vomiting.
And there you are. We're back. Second half of season 17. I hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year's. And you know what? What way to kick it off with our good friend Michael Esposito. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, it's been, I think it was like last year we had you on, but it was so cool because you were live in that little cemetery on the outskirts of Chicago.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. So how have you been?
Not bad. Busy. Been busy lately, but good, I guess.
Yeah, I noticed you were doing some work down. I remember you were saying Tulum, Mexico.
Oh, Tulum, yeah, and Chichen Itza.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm recording some Mayan ghosts, maybe. A lot of the Mexican Riviera is known for its human sacrifices.
Yeah,
and so a lot of the cenotes and stuff, those are holes in the ground that fill up with water and stuff, naturally occurring. But the Mayans considered them gateways to the underworld and very sacred. So they would sacrifice everything from jewelry to pottery to humans to animals to whatever there. Some of them are pretty notorious just for the fact that these holes you can't really like climb out of naturally and stuff. So they would drop live humans in there and they eventually drowned or what have you. But in Chichen Itza, there's a huge couple of them there, and in Tulum and throughout the whole Mexican Riviera there. So good recordings. Got actually picked up finally in Chichen Itza. Got a couple Aztec death whistles.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, always.
That's
always wanted a couple of those. So yeah.
Did you use any?
I will be using them on some future recordings once I go through the EVP and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, which I went the year before too to Tulum, so I have recordings from there too. I need to work on.
And I guess you're saying these holes, the water would make for good conductant, wouldn't it? Like to pick up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, they're fresh water too. So I found that recording EVP and can conducting over water. I've actually had better luck with fresh water over salt water. I did some saltwater recordings in front of pirates' caves and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Down on the other side and some in Europe as well. And they're good. But some reason I've been capturing just more phenomenal stuff on the freshwater.
Interesting. Why do you think that is? I mean, freshwater over, say, saltwater. Like, I mean, or any other type. Like, I mean, why freshwater?
Well, I mean, thinking about it just for a moment. I mean, you know, the whole composition of the water with salt water is heavier, is deeper. I mean, look at the Dead Sea. I mean, the Dead Sea, the composition has so much salt in it, you float. You know, things don't even really sink in the Dead Sea. I haven't had a chance to record there yet. I've been on the Dead Sea years ago, but I'd like to get back and try some recordings there. So, but the composition, the heaviness of the water, it's a denser, thicker medium than fresh water.
And I mean, you've been all over the place recording stuff. I mean, quite a bit in Europe as well. you've visited some pretty notorious places that have seen some, tragic history and violent history.
Always my favorites.
Yeah, but I mean, is this the type of sort of area you think that is more successful? I hate to say it, more successful in terms of capturing these interesting EVPs, and
Well,
why so?
the human emotion at these places are at the time of their activity were denser, and I think there's a lot more residual um, energy, emotions that reside. I went down to Barcelona, Spain, and did some recordings at some um, Spanish Inquisition sites, especially some of the earlier ones against the Cathars, and the whole Pyrenees mountain range area is really great for that. So I was able to record in some squares and stuff in Barcelona where they um, burnt a lot of witches slash Cathars
Mhm.
or other undesirables. And then I did a 1 week workshop in the Pyrenees on the French side,
Oh,
which is
okay.
pretty much directly in line with Barcelona, and but on the French side, and was able to record at some actual ruins of Cathar castles up in the mountains.
Oh,
I
wow.
took I took my class up there and was able to do some experiments and recordings with various objects, tuning forks, and other types of noise inductions.
You should
Which
you
was
should
pretty cool.
we should introduce you to Richard Stanley. Are you familiar with the director Richard Stanley?
No, no.
No, he did Color Out of Space recently with
Oh,
Nicholas Cage. Anyways, he lives in the Pyrenees, and he's huge into the paranormal.
oh wow, wow!
Yeah,
Those are a lot of great sites.
yeah.
One of the sites I was able to record at was uh, actually a Cro-Magnon. I mean,
Oh
an
wow.
Iron Age period silver mine that went extinct. It disappeared, and the village there's just ruins there. But it's way during the medieval period,
Hmm.
squatters settled in some of the buildings. I mean, that's how old it is. It's way pre, I mean, literally Iron Age, Byzantine, if you will. So, I mean, it was hugely old, and they call it the disappeared village because they don't know who lived there exactly or why. They can only figure out that it was probably Iron Age. They figure out it was a silver mine at one point,
Hmm.
and it's up in the hills, and there's waterfalls and a lot of small rivers and streams and stuff around that area, and that's very conducive to the recordings as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so not just it's a weird area. It's an odd place. The town I was staying in, most of the people have the same last name, or
Oh,
they somehow all uh, biologically related to each other of sorts.
oh wow.
There's a lot of interesting stories and
Well,
dynamics to that.
I bet with you. I mean, it's steep and rich in history, and as you pointed out, some of it. I mean, just from what I get from what you're saying, and again, like when we had Richard on and to talk about the area and what he's experienced there, it seems like such a fascinating place to visit.
Yeah, I'll be doing another workshop there in October. I was asked to come back. If anyone's interested, they can look up Camp is the name of the organization.
Hmm.
Uh, Camp Workshops. I think if they put Camp Workshops, they do a number of workshops for sound artists and musicians,
Hmm.
um, experimental musicians, if you will. Um, and they get the most interesting people. I mean, my class was phenomenal. I went there and I did the workshop with the Carl Michael von Haaswolf out of Stockholm, who I've done many things with over the years.
Hmm.
He's actually the president of the Friedrich Jurgensen Foundation
Oh
of
wow.
EVP. He saved Jurgensen's work from obscurity. He was working on an album called Operations of Spirit Communications,
Okay.
and his father-in-law said, "You know that guy, that weird guy that did all that stuff in the 60s and 70s, lived right down the street. You had to go visit. He's dead, but his widow's there. His um, uh, girlfriend, this former
Mm.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
and he went down there, and she had horrible, uh, where you can't remember anything for a long time, like I can't right now. Um,
Dementia or whatever.
Alzheimer's, dementia, Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And every time he would go there, she'd talk to him, and he was trying to secure Jurgensen's entire office, all of his recordings and everything. And there was a horrible storm. It knocked down one of the trees in the yard and almost hit the house. And so he'd spent the night, and then he talked to her about, look, we want to save this stuff. So she agreed, and him and his buddy came and collected it all. They toured it around Sweden, um, and then donated it to the Swedish Museum.
And like, how well known was Jorgensen?
Oddly enough, I mean, he's fringe. I mean, he's underground.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so as well known as he is to our circles,
Hmm.
the man on the street probably wasn't very aware of him. I mean, I've got from his office, I've got a watercolor. Mickey had a few of his watercolors. I've got one of his watercolors. I got some rare photographs, and
Hmm.
I actually got one of Jurgensen's passports. I
Oh
collect
wow.
passports. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mickey gave me one of his passports. He had a couple of them. So and we did a album, like you can find it on Bandcamp, I believe,
Yeah.
called From the Studios of um, Microscopic Sound or something like that. I can't even remember. I'm sorry, I've had a long day. Um, Audioscopic from the studios of Audioscopic Laboratories, something like that. Audioscopic.
I've
Yeah.
I think I still have the link to it, and as soon as I pull it up here, I'll put it in the chat. I don't.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't have it handy. I know I still have it though from the last, because I mean we talked about it the last time, and
Yeah.
I did put it. Fascinating person. I mean, like, for those who may not know who he is, I mean, can you just give them okay, why is this guy so important to the world of EVP?
Well, Friedrich Jurgensen was amazing, because I mean he was just first of all an amazing man. He was an opera singer. He was a painter. He was an archaeologist.
Mm-hmm.
He did archaeology for the Vatican,
Yeah.
and actually painted two portraits of two of the popes
Mm-hmm.
there. And he was recording bird song. He was at his summer house recording bird song and captured the voice of his father calling out to Friedel, was what his father called him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took it to the Pope, like kind of like von Schlesien had done. He monk or friar, if you will, von Schlesien took the recordings to the Vatican and said, hey, I'm capturing these, and they're like, yeah, we know all about them. And I've long attested that the Vatican has in fact, especially since Jorgensen, the Vatican has a pretty elaborate electronic voice phenomena library, and maybe actively conducting research. Um, so Jorgensen devoted he came up with the Jorgensen frequency, 1465 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can look up and what he was doing was he was tuning radios to these non dedicated frequencies,
Mm-hmm.
and was using them to help capture the sound in that. And yes.
So I mean, when you look at modern day now, I mean, you look at today with a lot of these, investigators, if you will, and people who do audio work in the field to capture EVPs, and they use spirit boxes and ovuluses and ghost boxes. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that in comparison to the research that Jurgensen did?
Well, spirit boxes or Frank's boxes, and I love Frank's boxes. Frank's option was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but spirit boxes are just very simply the same. They're using AM and FM radio waves, and they're using the scanning function and not stopping when it locks onto a signal, so it continues through.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear a solid voice going through variety of frequencies, and it's the same voice, then hey, figure something's up. I mean, you can also use it as a white noise type thing,
Mm-hmm.
or pink noise to use to enhance things. I had some amazing experiences with it. The ones with Jenny Stewart, who
Mm-hmm.
is really focuses on spirit boxes and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's phenomenal, and we were with at South Pittsburgh Hospital with what's his name, cryptozoologist, great industrial musician too. Um,
Now you've got me wondering, because I'm thinking
he wore the cowboy hat with the sides up and stuff.
Oh.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Jesus.
Oh, are you talking? Oh my God! Now I know. I think I know who you're talking about. Are you talking about? Oh my God!
Now you're both going to be stumped.
Yeah, now stop.
He had that band Bozo Porno Circus, an industrial
Yeah.
band off of Invisible.
Yeah. What the heck's his name again?
He's on the tip of my tongue too.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Oh.
That's what I get for not staying in touch with my friends better.
I'm looking up, and it's funny.
Ken Gerhardt.
Yeah.
Ken Gerhardt.
That's not who I was thinking about, but okay.
Oh, all right. Well, Ken Gerhardt. Yeah, Ken Gerhardt. Yeah, he did a lot of cryptozoology shows and stuff.
Well, it's I mean, I remember years ago we were supposed to do a thing at the with Jenny Stewart, the Henryton, to go in there. We were all supposed to. I don't know. I think you were probably almost involved with that too, but it fell apart, unfortunately. That was
I owe her a visit one of these days.
Sorry?
I owe her a visit one of these days. It's been way too long.
Yeah. But it's Henryton down in Maryland, right? Yeah. So that would have been a neat place to sort of investigate and sort of experiment. I mean, what's your what's your what do you find yourself experimenting with a lot now, more so than ever, when you're going in and recording audio and sort of tweaking it? What do you, because I mean you've used so many different tools and techniques. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still really heavy into the infusing an atmosphere with sound. I mean, in some of my early writings, I would talk about the 3 ways to affect an investigation. One is to affect the researcher. One is to affect the entity, and the third way would be to affect the environment. Obviously the researcher, they always say, in fact, I was thinking about this earlier, but when you bring a researcher into a research situation, you really do, contaminate the investigation to a certain extent, but in a certain way too. And if you document that, it in itself becomes a research environment, with the researcher.
Yeah.
So, what the researcher brings in as far as energy baggage or what have you, the state of mind, and there's many factors the researcher or scientist could bring into a situation. The entity, if you're trying to reach out to a particular entity, or if you're going to a situational environment to try and recreate situations in any way to infuse that energy back into anything. And if, like energy connects, does it accentuate the energy that's already there? So let's say you go to, just roughly, a civil war, or let's look at the South Pittsburgh Hospital scenario. I spent months researching all the exact types of equipment they were used there in the 70s and 80s, and I found recordings of those machines, EKGs, or what have you, but actually many of them by brand name and type.
Yeah.
And I made this composition on CD, and the whole thing was very dramatic. So I built a story just using sounds. So the different types of machines going, the breathing apparatuses and things. So you have this, and at the end, the EKG was flatlining, and Jenny was running a ghost box. Ken Gerhardt's sitting by a wall, and I was playing this thing on a laptop sitting on the floor, and we had a camera going. We were in the operating room, I think, and the lights all started flashing, flickering, and the voice on the ghost box went just kind of flat. It's like just screaming, help me, help me, help me, save me, and shit. And then the laptop slid across the floor towards Ken. The whole laptop, wow. It slid across the floor, and then all the power went off. It's crazy. Yeah, so yeah, it was kind of an interesting example. So
okay, well, let's go back even more. I mean, what about the Sally House? I mean, you did a lot of research in the Sally House, right? I mean, you did a lot of experimentation. I mean, what did you do? What did you do to to sort of prepare yourself for something like the Sally House?
You don't really prepare yourself for the Sally House. I've been there probably about 23 or 24 times. I've been there way more than probably anyone should. But it's a weird place. It calls you. When you've been there, it calls you back. I mean, I literally have been there like 25, 26 times. And one time, I was commodity broker for 23 years. I had an office at the Hancock in Chicago, and I'm sitting at the Hancock in Chicago, and it was calling towards me, man. I couldn't. So I went down to the parking garage, and I closed off my trades. I shut my office door. I walked down to the garage, and I drove down to Atchison from Chicago. Kansas.
Oh,
And I'm on the road, and I'm like, nobody knows I'm even going. And on the radio, this is the day that bridge collapsed and killed all those people up in
oh,
in
yeah.
in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was on that same road going down to Atchison. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh.
I'm like, and nobody knows I'm going, and all this shit's happening, and I don't know why I'm driving down to the Sally house. And so I called my buddy, and I said, look, I'm driving down to Atchison, Kansas. If I just disappear or like whatever the hell, just know that this is where I was headed. And I got down there in the house, and I know where Les kept the key and stuff. I mean, so I could go at any time. So I got up on the porch, and I literally swear by this. It was like all the windows were open. The house was furnished. Like it's never furnished. There's like a sofa in there and like a kitchen table with a few chairs and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fully furnished. It had hardwood floors. And I'm on the porch, which is kind of not a wraparound, but it's a full porch,
Yeah.
And I'm like looking in the windows and stuff. And I'm thinking, like, this is so nice. And then I stop myself, and it's like, wait a minute, this isn't right. And literally, it didn't change till I got back to my car. So I walked straight back to the road, to the car. I looked back, and it was all closed up as usual.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was so insane. I left there, and I booked a room in a motel, and I didn't go there. It scared the shit out of
back
me.
in time? Is that what
Yeah.
I don't know. And I look at things from a scientific view. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy to make up something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really do try and look at things from a very skeptical or scientific approach, and it scared me to death. It still scares me. Just thinking about it scares me. Yeah.
It just gives you the chills.
Because I could have grabbed the key and gone in. I mean, it's like, who knows? Who really knows?
Well, just the fact that it called to you.
Yeah.
And you went there and you experienced. Yeah.
I mean, there will be times I'll be like out on my back porch having a cigarette or something, and I live at the end of my street is Illinois, and it's 11 square mile forest preserve. So I've usually got 5 or 6 deer. I live in a subdivision, and it's on a ridge, and I still have like 5 or 6 deer in my yard or whatever. And, it's all the whole. If you look out my back porch, all the way down is this gully that goes down because I'm on the top of the ridge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all wooded with ancient oaks and I got blue jays and cardinals and red-headed woodpeckers and coyotes and one time I had to take a deer that some coyote had ripped the middle out of it. I had to drag it out to the street because it was winter. Thank God it was frozen. But I had to drag it out to the street so animal control could pick it up. This is a full-blown subdivision. This isn't like I'm out in the woods.
Wow.
But at the end of the street, it's 11 square miles, So, like, I might be out there, and then I'll just feel the pull. I'll start seeing it in my head, Sally House and stuff, and you start to feel the pull.
I mean, before you ever went into that house, I mean, how did you discover the Sally House? I mean, let's go back. How did you discover it, and what pulled you into the Sally House to start doing that?
Well, I was with Haunted Voices with Todd Bates.
That's
decades ago. And he had got in touch with the Pickmans, and he'd been there once before, and this was his second trip. He asked me to come with him. Yeah. So we went down together, and then that's how I became friends with the Pickmans and started working with them, and there I met Les, and and then the whole thing, I heard just recently that the Pickmans are back up on the Sally House website again,
Oh,
doing
okay.
stuff,
Yeah.
and actually working with Todd again on some stuff. So
I
just
haven't
Todd
talked to
pulled away from
Todd
that for
in
a while.
years, man. It's been a long time
I know
since I talked to Todd.
he kind of pulled away. He kept the haunted voices thing, but he pulled away from the paranormal for a little while.
Yeah.
But I think he's back in it again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I always got along with Todd. He was a real nice guy.
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that and 25 odd whatever visitations that
Years ago.
place, and I mean, well, what did you know? Like, I mean, did you know anything about the Sally House beforehand though? Did
No,
you even hear about
just
it?
I mean, we had some really stringent rules at the time.
Yeah.
You never went anywhere alone.
Mhm.
You never any alcohol, any drugs.
Mhm.
I mean, just it was so strict because it was so dangerous
Mhm.
when we went in there. Nothing flammable. You don't go anywhere alone. Nothing stupid. You really don't make any noise. I mean, it's just there was just so many because of the way the situation was. There was so many precautions that were set up and that we continued to set up afterwards. And then the research and the house next door in the Finneys and what properties he owned and the whole history of the place. I was part of everybody doing the research on that.
Yeah.
Because that's when all that started to blossom. Is back then.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah.
A lot of weird times. Yeah, a lot of weird things. And then as far as trigger object stuff, we did do some trigger object stuff in that, and a few things that relate to the history. But the history used to come out of that place itself. That's the one where I caught that Irish woman singing a cappella kind of, singing, and you could hear her brogue, and you can almost tell her age. I mean, it was so clear. And the Finneys, of course, were Irish immigrants that came over. He was a doctor, and it's just so much of that stuff like just came out of its own.
Yeah, it's an interesting place, and of course, all that stuff that you did, the documentaries and stuff. People can see, watch it. It's just simply the Sally House, right?
Right. Sally House, I think there's what gateway to the paranormal or
Yeah.
some weird kind of subtitle to it. It's hard because if you put that in these days, it's just a Sally House. I think like a million different things come up.
Probably.
That thing's been trampled pretty much underfoot.
Oh man, so many of those places that we used to check out. It's just it's crazy how many times people have visited these places, and yeah,
Film crews have been in there to
yeah,
try and do their shows and what have you.
yeah. But what I like though is the fact that you now sort of center on these very historical sort of places around the world that I think haven't even deeper, richer history, as we pointed out earlier. And what I think it's in is it Stockholm? There's a place in Sweden that you go to quite often, I believe, that you do some.
Not one in particular. I just did just an album just got released with Addie Newton from Clock DVA and the Anti-Group, a big industrial guy started in the late 70s, really. He was originally with the group that became the Human League.
Oh, the Human League.
guy, right? He was with them, and then he separated to do the industrial stuff under Clock DVA. And we have a band called Matar, and we went around all over southern England and central England recording the megalithic standing sites like the Hurlers and Stonehenge and all those. And we have a band. If you look up, it just got released on vinyl and will be coming out on CD. And I don't know if they're going to release the individual tracks, but if you look up on Bandcamp, Matar, I think it's Archaeoacoustics is the title of the album. And it's the whole idea is attacking recording of these EVPs and sounds. I mean, EVPs don't have to be voices. EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, or electronic sound phenomena, as archaeoacoustic recordings. So what we're doing is we're looking at it from an archaeological standpoint of sound. You know, what can we glean in digging into the energy of residual sounds or embedded sounds, as I've done a lot of work with embedded sounds. We actually put contact mics up to the stones itself and try to free up any residual echo energy or echo sound that has embedded itself into the objects of the environment. And
how do you spell the name now of
the group? Matar.
AR. Okay, Matar.
Yeah,
so I just want to make sure.
It's the godmother, the mother god, if you will, of
I just wanted to.
have you found it?
Out of the UK? No.
Yeah, you can, like, if you put like Matar, you know, Addie Newton, Michael Esposito or something, or Michael Esposito, Addie, you know, something. You might be able to find something on it.
I just want to.
I did a show. We just did a show in at the end of the year. We did a show in Milan.
Yeah.
So we did a Matar show, and then he did a Clock DVA show right after.
I've got you. So let's see. If it pops up there.
There's an individual engineering firm. It's called Matar.
Yeah, there's a lot of Matar stuff.
Yeah.
Try Matar, then Addie Newton after that. You probably would find something.
District, no. Let me see. I just wanted to, so we could put it out there for people to check out. No, it's not coming out. That's not. It's probably right in front of you. But there's a lot of Matar.
It's a pretty common name.
If I track it down, I'll put it in. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I look for it, but I'm on my cell phone.
Yeah.
Move off. I don't want to move off the screen. God knows what will happen.
I'm just. And if anybody in the chat has a question for Michael, by all means, just make sure you type it in bold so we can see it. We capture it. And we'll ask Michael the question. Now, the approach that many people take now to do an EVP work, I mean, what have you found? Like, is there certain people that you've been following at all that's you know, more recently doing research into EVP? Is there somebody that you would recommend or you'd follow, that you're following, interested in his work or their work?
some of the classics. I mean, look at Chisholm. I mean, there's still a lot of people out there that, like if you're tired of all the, people with the gadgets and the people, that are just really trying to make a TV show, what have you. Look at some of the classics. I mean, I always recommend digging around the people that you will find on World ITC. You're familiar with World ITC, right?
I've heard of it.
World Instrumental Transcommunication. They have a website, I think.
Yeah, ITC is
It's
pretty
probably
good.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna say I don't know how much they update their stuff, but
well, who was it? Was it ITC or I maybe it was ITC? I can't remember, but I do remember listening to some of their stuff, their research and experimentation, and I do remember one recording in particular where they had made contact, or they had, I don't want to say made contact, but they had captured what sounded like somebody kind of explaining what things were like on the other side, if you will, and stating that
not like a Meeks O'Neill thing, right?
no, something about how the passing through, you pass through into real life, that we are actually in a sort of a purgatory state, and something that the research was something down that road, and the audio was kind of pertaining to that. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
Might have been like Hans Kennis out of Hans Kennis is out of Amsterdam. Well, Netherlands anyway.
Yeah.
Hans Kennis is real good. Chisholm, of course. There's a few older people, I guess, that I still think are very good.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing it for forever.
Mm.
I'm sounding a lot like one of those "don't trust anyone under 20" kind of thing.
But I mean, it's still though. I
wouldn't be wrong, by the way.
No, I mean, you look at you look at a lot of this stuff now. It just it's unfortunate how it's gotten to the point where it's gotten to. But I mean, I always say, there are people who are in the background that are making huge leaps and bounds with the research and experimentation. And I've always said that about you, Michael. I mean, the stuff that you've done, that you've accomplished, and I always look up to. I mean, if I capture something, I'm going to say, hey, look, Michael, check this out. Let me know your thoughts, sort of thing. I kind of respect your opinion on things more than I would, somebody who, has been doing this and really has no credentials to back it up, so to speak. You know what I mean?
What's weird too about it, just thinking on it, is the medium is such a issue. All right, you if you're a real researcher and you're really doing quality work, what medium do you choose? I mean, you can't really, there's really not any kind of television shows that handle things in that way, because it'd probably be too boring. But scholarly papers don't really do a good job of it. I mean, I chose creating these thinly veiled experimental musical enterprises. But what's weird about it is if you dig into it, all the songs are built from sounds from specific locations with real research behind them.
Yeah.
But presented in a way that could be listened to as an entertainment piece, I guess. But I'm working on a piece right now, actually, and it's oddly, it's got a strange set of connections to it. Uh, it's based on a tank that was destroyed in France in World War One by the Germans, who shot it with an anti-aircraft gun and literally destroyed it, killed everyone in it. And they used the tank and the bodies and everything. They displayed it as a big propaganda tool to the Germans, and the German army is like, hey, we have a real win here, and these tanks aren't going to bother us no more. These British tanks, and the name of the tank was Blarney Castle, which I just happened to have some wonderful recordings from the actual Blarney Castle in Cork, Ireland, including recordings. They let me put a contact microphone on the Blarney Stone. I recorded the Blarney Stone.
Yeah.
And so I started to draw a connection to why they would name this tank the Blarney Castle.
Mm-hmm.
And how this British tank named Blarney Castle was used after its death and its occupant's death as a propaganda tool. So I've got this very long kind of extenuating circumstance, if you will, here of this thing. And I've got, people, I got Chris Connolly from Ministry and Revolting Cocks. He's reading from Finnegan's Wake, James Joyce, who had visited Blarney Castle. So I've got him doing readings from that in it. Actually, I got some drum bits that we talked about for quite a while, and built some drum part is by Martin Atkins from Public Image Limited.
Oh,
and
wow.
And Ministry. He was in Ministry as a drummer for a while. And oddly enough, ran the label Invisible Records that Ken Gerhardt's sub-label in Texas was connected to. So
Oh, wow.
there's that connection. I know, right? Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just keeps on connecting.
Yeah.
And so I'm using some of the recording, and I've got, I'm trying to build kind of more of a neo-folk piece on it. So I'm adding, I've done a lot of work with Tibetan singing bowls and stuff. Well, I've got some mortar shell casings, brass mortar shell casings from World War One.
Oh, wow.
That I found, and I'm playing them on it, like Tibetan singing bowls, and they're ringing.
See, that's what I mean. That's incredible. I mean, who would ever think that? That's incredible.
So I'm adding those to it, and I've got recordings from the Western Front, the last trenches that still exist from the Netherlands, from Ives in the Netherlands, where the Western Front was. A lot of Canadians got killed there, and they actually kept the trenches, or some of the trenches, right there in the cornfields and stuff. There were, along the Western Front. And so I've got recordings that I made from there that I'm going to be adding to it as well.
Wow. That's
so
cool.
there's this multiple layer of Blarney Castle, World War One, the Western Fronts, and, a bit of sprinkling of James Joyce, who wrote one of my favorite books, which I highly recommend. Anybody interested in the EVP is Finnegan's Wake. And they used to have a symposium every year on about how Finnegan's Wake related to electronic voice phenomena. The story starts off in the last half of the last sentence. So it's like 600 pages long, and the last sentence ends in the middle of it. And if you go to the front page, it starts the whole thing. So it reads in a round.
It's kind of like, I remember watching this movie years ago by an Italian director by the name of Lucio Fulci, and it was his take on Poe's short, "The Black Cat," and in his take on it, his main character, he lives by an old cemetery, and each night he takes a reel to reel out to the cemetery, and he starts recording by a plot and starts talking and recording and actually capturing EVPs. And I mean, this is like 19 it's not an old I think it was 1985 or 86 when this came out. But I mean, it's just fascinating to see that. I mean, it's there, and if people really look, you'll see that the interest it's just really intriguing how people view EVP and what it could possibly be.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, right. Well, look at Finnegan's Wake, which was James Joyce's master works. I mean, everyone knows him for Ulysses or whatever, but this was kind of a life work for him. This is, what he'd worked on really throughout his life in Capella, and a lot of people consider it unreadable because it's in a mixture of like 15 different languages, including one or two of them that were made up, and the whole thing's about the dead. The dreamer in the beginning is getting voices over in Irish Radio 1 and Irish Radio 2 next to his bedside, and that's where the spirits are coming through. EVP, and the whole thing's built on these ghosts and death and the whole thing. But if you can challenge yourself or have the fortitude to actually make it through the book, it's phenomenally and enlightening. I mean, for people who are interested in what we're interested in the paranormal and in electronic voice phenomena and what have you, you read that book and it's like, holy Christ, shit. And this is not a new book. This is not, something that came out,
when did it come out?
20s and 30s, I think.
30s, Incredible. Hold tight. We're taking a short break on the New Visions Radio Network. We'll be right back with Michael Esposito. And again, if you have any questions, type them in bold in the chat, or you can message it to us, and we'll get them off to Michael. So hold tight. We'll be right back. You're watching and listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio live here on the New Visions Radio Network, and of course simulcasting on our YouTube channel. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Good evening. I'm Richard Palmisano, the founder of the Searcher Group. It's a paranormal company, the oldest in Canada, founded in 1979, which not only makes me old, but makes me doing paranormal research and field work for just under 45 years now. I am also an author, researcher, and lecturer on the paranormal. I've written 6 books now. And I really enjoy coming on with Steve and Alex on Nocturnal Frequency Radio, as well as listening to the shows, because there's a lot of interesting guests there. I like it, looking at this stuff, because it opens your mind to other options and other alternative thoughts. And, there's always time to learn new things. So I hope you join us and come and see Nocturnal Frequency Radio. Thank you.
So let me ask you, what makes for good radio?
My 5 favorite songs all day long.
Play it again.
No.
As many commercials as physically possible.
What? No, why would that be good?
Great music, great talk shows, no commercials!
Precisely. New Visions Radio gives you no commercials, no nonsense, just the best new music and the best talk all day long, 24/7, 365. NewVisionsRadio.com.
Hey guys, Kristen here, host of the Paranormal Girl podcast, a bingeable exploration and deep dive education about the paranormal for the skeptical believer. Some of my past season topics have included shadow people, Mandela effect, demons, and UFOs. Currently, I am tackling Bigfoot. I have been sharing this journey with my audience since early 2021, and I have learned a lot these last few years. It's truly a mysterious world out there beyond our perceptions, and reality is just not what it seems. I have also, since the start, met some awesome folks like Alex and Steve, and I've really enjoyed watching and learning from them and also joining them on their show. Their guests are always outstanding, their listeners are just the coolest, and these hosts are some of my favorite people. I recommend their show to anyone looking for an intelligent and fun conversation about the paranormal amongst friends. So join me on my investigation, join Steve and Alex on theirs, and enjoy. Now back to the show. You are watching Nocturnal Frequency Radio.
And there you are. Welcome back to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live on the New Visions Radio Network. And of course, simulcasting on our YouTube channel. And you know what? Welcome back, Michael. Thanks again for taking the time out and joining us. Always great to have you on. Always great. And
I love being on your show. You guys got a great show. And honestly, thank you for having me on.
We love having you on.
And I'm always the silent,
silent partner.
silent partner.
Strong but silent. But anyways, I wanted to bring in our special guest host, Jimmy of Ghost Quest. Hey, how you doing, Jimmy? How are you?
I made it.
Jimmy,
Hi, Jimmy.
This is Michael.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
Hey, great to meet you. Good.
So, just we do have a question. We got a question here. Let me just got a couple questions. One question might be a little tough, but I'll go. Melissa's asking, Michael, what would you recommend to be best reasonable EVP mono recorder or recorder you can get? I don't know. And where could I purchase one, please? So I guess what would you recommend? I guess I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've always said this: the cheaper, the better, which is good for all of us. I've been using my phone a lot lately. The thing you got to realize is when you pay for recorders or microphones or headphones, what have you, when you spend the money, what you're spending money on is basically noise reduction. And that's not our signal. We are looking in the hiss. We're looking in the what a rational sound engineer would think is noise to them is our signal, and their signal is basically our noise. So we're listening in the hiss and the din, if you would. And, you don't want something canceling that out or filtering that out. Mm-hmm. So when you buy equipment, don't spend a lot on equipment. I've experimented. I've got 2 reel-to-reels. I've got pocket recorders, the little dictaphone recorders. I've got tons of those. I mean, literally boxes of those. I've done micro cassette. I've done DAT. I've done, you name it.
I was going to say you've pretty much done everything when it comes to.
I've probably recorded about everything. I've even tried the Zooms when they came out, and what have you. I mean, they're fine, but the thing is be careful. Watch the noise reduction. I mean, if you're going to record in mono or stereo or binaural, which is something I created with a wig head. I made my own binaural recorders. You can buy very expensive binaural recorders, but that comes with a lot of baggage, a lot of that noise reduction. I used more cheaper means and then literally carved out where the ears would have been on a wig head to try and get the spacing between the ears, if you will. I mean, because I've done a lot of work on echolocation, and I actually have a couple of releases based on echolocation. That is one sound one ear picks up is the original sound source, and then the other ear picks up the echo. It's like why we see in 3 dimensions, because our eyes are looking at something from different angles, and we create 3-dimensional view. Well, the same with recording and audio. If you close your eyes and you listen to something on the street or any sound, really, you'll get a sense of what direction it's in because of the fact that one ear is picking up the original sound source and one ear is picking up the echo off of, whatever, trees, buildings, whatever is echoing off of. But because of that, you get what they call echolocation. So you can close your eyes and you can actually tell where the source of the noise is coming from. And, it helps you listen and be able to realize things like Doppler effect and other things like that as well. So, get out there and experiment with your recordings and the devices you use, but don't fork a lot of money out for it. I've always said the best tool you can use is your ears.
Yeah, I've never. I mean, it's always nice to have, an expensive gadget or recorder or whatever else. But I always found that, the cheaper ones seem to, I don't know. capture some real I keep going back to when I captured on high 8 digital tape. It was just phenomenal.
Right, exactly.
Well,
I mean, and then there's some anomalies too. I mean, what's the famous the Panasonic dictaphones that just happen to have a particular chipset, if you will, or motherboard on the electronics, and is just known for picking up. I mean, they're the one Panasonic you end up paying $2,000 or $3,000 for, but that's not noise reduction you're paying for. What you're paying for is its fame of becoming, I can't think of the exact model now.
It's the DR60.
Little credit card size one. Yeah.
It's the DR60.
DR60.
Yeah, right. That's it. That's exactly it. The 60, and then there was the 90 that's good, but a little lesser or something like that. That you pay $500 for, But, I know a guy that had like 3 of the 60s. And then when they break, he'd buy a new one, and they're like $2,000 or $3,000 a piece. Tim Woods, and they're interesting things, and what that was just a fluke of nature, if you will. It wasn't like he was trying to buy Bose equipment or something, and what's that Scandinavian company that's does all that? It's very expensive.
Sennheiser? Is that Scandinavian?
No. They make some cheap stuff too, but Bang & Olufsen is what I was thinking of. Like it's not some Bang & Olufsen piece or some Bose that are known for their noise reduction.
Is it not Techniques, right?
No, Bang & Olufsen.
Oh, Bang & Olufsen. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Bang & Olufsen.
Yeah. They actually had a store on Rush Street in Chicago. That stuff, that's crazy expensive. Techniques is an old Panasonic brand known for my turntables. Techniques. Yeah, I like Panasonic. I always like to know the history of the companies of the equipment. I like Panasonic. And, really, oddly enough, anything from that World War I era and slightly before. Panasonic's one of them, which of course Techniques is Panasonic, and then a couple other brands that I kind of like to look at.
That technique you used, what was it with the how was it? No, the turntable. You used a turntable, right? You used a turntable to capture some sort of ambient sort of residual sounds. I think was it a turntable? I'm thinking.
Was it the one where I took the turntable with a blank grooved album?
Yes.
In fact, because the needle itself is a microphone, right? And it picks up vibrations. Now, like there's certain albums. In fact, it's oddly you should say that because I was just checking out a album, Big World by Stepping Out Tonight. Who was that guy? Why can't I think tonight?
Not me.
The piano player. He did some punk, but he did a lot of. He got real big with Stepping Out. Was one of the big hits he had. Joe Jackson.
Joe Jackson. That's right.
Joe Jackson. Yeah. So Joe, it's coming to me. At least it's coming to me. Some nights it doesn't. So Joe Jackson's final album, Big World, is actually on 3 sides. And the 4th side, a lot of times now, like I have a one-sided vinyl album called Inner Voices Live with Leif Elgren from Stockholm and Freddie Wadling, God bless his soul, who's dead now. that we did recordings at. I believe the recordings were from the King's theater at the Palace. King of Sweden, his palace theater. We did Drottningholm Theater, and that record is nothing on it at all. It's just a blank side. You'll see that a lot with single-sided albums or vinyl, but this one had just an empty groove. So you're able to get the groove, but it's absolutely nothing on the groove whatsoever. So it's a full-sided album, but nothing on the groove. So if anybody can get a hold of that album, that's a great tool, because you use that fourth side that there's nothing recorded on. Okay, put the needle on the record. Okay, and it becomes a recording tool, and then just either mic it directly or mic it off of a speaker. See what you get.
Well, I mean, and there's also the technique that you kind of recommended that I did with a certain location was to record some children playing with some toys. And in the location, and that's what I did, recorded the children playing, and then you bring the recording back to that same location and you play it out during an investigation to see if it sort of attracts, it sort of brings out any residual sort of energies, if you will, or something that might, spark a response. And it's actually
like energy is attracting.
Really good technique. I got to use it more often, but it's kind of harder to get kids, to sit down and play with toys or whatever else and record them. Why are you recording me? I don't want to play with these toys.
That's cringe. That's cringe. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve, you can always come and record my daughter.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go. You're gonna have to bring her out. We'll record her playing with the toys.
This recording that I'm working on now with the Blarney Castle tank and all that, I got a hold of some mortar shells, brass mortar shells from World War I, and I found that I could play them like a Tibetan singing bowl with the mallets and that. So I've been playing them and recording playing them because it's actually from a shell that was fired in World War I.
Wow, that's
so. I mean, yeah, just the creativity as far as what you could use as a trigger object or whatever is totally up to you. I mean, if you contain yourself to the scientific method of, hey, this should at least be relevant. Always look at the relevance of what you're doing in your investigation. If it doesn't have relevance, it probably doesn't fit. Historical or sonically relevant, or experiment. But try and keep the scientific method pure, so can be used as a useful document someday.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy, when you were doing the, working on the documentary, and thinking audio wise and EVPs and so on and so on. From what I remember, you captured some EVPs that kind of surprised you, didn't they?
Yeah. I had gone through everything and I didn't hear any sound whatsoever. I thought it was a bust. And then it wasn't until I went through after I had cleaned up the audio and I heard this sound, and I was like, well, that's weird. And I listened to it again, and it's like, that's a voice. And so then I looked at it in spectral, and I removed all of the noise reduction so I could see if this sound was there, even with the noise, and it was. And then I enhanced it, and there was a woman, and to me, it sounded like she was saying, I can't answer you. And it was tonal. like it had a voice, like not whisper. I mean, it was not whispery like you hear most voices, most EVPs and stuff. And when I heard that, it was like, okay, this is not supposed to be here. And I come from an audio background, like I have recording studio and I've been recording since I was like 15, and I understand frequency response. And the thing that I noticed mostly about it that took me by surprise was I couldn't quite tell where in the mix that it was coming from. Right? I couldn't tell which direction it was coming from, which made me start to think about the idea of phasing, that it was out of phase. Because when something is out of phase, you can't quite tell where it's coming from in the mix. You're listening, you can hear, you listen to the drums, this tom's over here, and you've got, the snare drum down the middle and the bass drum down the middle, or the guitar is over hard left, and, the whatever's hard right, you can hear all that. But when it came to the voices, it's like, where is that coming from? And so I started then kind of leaning into the idea that these voices they're out of phase somehow, which does not make sense. I mean, none of it makes sense anyway. There's no, you trying to make logical sense out of it is hard, especially when one of the things that you do with talking voices is you pull down the highs all the way out and you pull down the lows all the way out, and then that makes the voice more present. But that didn't work on these EVPs, which again it's not logical. It should. Mm-hmm. It should, So yeah, I mean, I found these voices, and that was when I thought, okay, there's really something going on at this guy's house. And I hadn't learned all the other stuff yet, all the shady stuff that was going on yet. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
I like your idea about the phasing. That's really, there's no audio, there's no echolocation to it whatsoever. Right. So you can't tell where it's coming from. Seems like it's coming from everywhere at once.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the phasing, also, being that the idea that maybe there's no original sound source, that what you're getting is just echo there, or what have you. But if you also look at it from a phasing aspect, I think you might be onto something there very much.
Right on. Yeah, cool. And what was I was going to say? I had something there. I guess the idea of sometimes when you hear EVPs, you hear the room respond, as in like what you're talking about. Like say you're in a mausoleum and the EVP echoes, bounces off the walls in this mausoleum because it's all made of marble or whatever. That tells me that it is actually sound that's happening in the room. Because why would there be echo happening unless it was actual sound bouncing off the walls? Now, we can't hear it, which also makes me think it's either subsonic or supersonic. Possibly subsonic, I don't know. But it has to be a sound that's happening in the room because the physics of the sound are still working. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of, again, more questions, right? Like why is that happening? And even with the phasing aspect of it, you can hear that phasing aspect in the reverb or whatever, however the room's responding. Yeah.
Well, phasing actually would relate very much. Actually, just it kind of occurred to me when you were talking is Curtis Rhodes wrote a book on microsound theory. Highly recommended. I've probably recommended on this show before.
You have, yes, you have.
But about granular clouds of microsound, pieces of short duration sound that falls out of the range of hearing. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that are in the range of hearing, but they don't build up enough decibel or pressure to be registered by the human ears. So they're kind of like little fragments of like energy or like sounds that sort of would emulate what a phase would, or a phase shifter, if you would be like the oscillation and waiting for compression. Because one of the things, obviously, I know for sure, Jimmy, about phase shifting is you have to have built within the phase shifter itself is something to give it more strength or power, or you won't be able to catch the oscillation of that phase shift.
Right.
Because it kind of falls out of the range of human hearing because it doesn't build up enough pressure or decibel.
Right.
So you really have to get like a preamp sort of functionality in your phase shifter.
Right. When things are truly out of phase, it's almost completely gone. You know,
Right.
like when the apex of the sound is at up here, and I can't remember what the term is for when it's on the bottom apex, which is not an apex. When they're perfectly aligned, the sound just disappears. It basically just is gone, which is also an interesting thing that happens. I don't quite understand why that happens, but
well, it's audibly gone. It's not gone. It's just audibly gone.
Right. And I mean, you can move that sound wave a bit more, and it'll kind of come back until you get it to where it's perfectly in phase again, and then like you're saying, the decibel range goes back up. But yeah, just through experimenting.
You'd love Curtis Rhodes.
Yeah.
You should read Curtis Rhodes. You'd love him.
Okay. Curtis Rhodes. Gotcha.
It's called Microsoft theory. ROADS.
Okay.
Like a road. Yeah.
So I got a question, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
How are we not able to hear this when we're there, but hear it when we record it?
Infrasound. I say infrasound, but whatever.
No, but I mean, this is where, like, forgive my ignorance because I'm not even part of this whole world, whether it's video or audio. But if we're in a location and we're recording something, I can't audibly hear something. Why am I then able to audibly hear it on the recording, on the recorder that I took with me? That's where the theories.
That's where the theories come in. You know, Jimmy knows this, of course, with his studio. But all microphones, they do one thing really. They compress sound. You know, it's a magnet wrapped in coil. So all microphones are really analog. You know, whatever you store them on, that could be digital or analog or magnetic or what have you. But one thing all microphones do is compress. And when you compress something, you add decibel to it. In other words, it makes it louder. You know, so when you're recording something, you're compressing the sound that it captures. And in its compression, it makes it audible, makes it more decibel. You know, it has more volume to it. Is
right.
One of my theories.
Okay. Yeah, and I love that question because I really don't know the answer. That's why I'm left with it's either supersonic or subsonic, because like you're saying, it's like, well, if I'm in the room, shouldn't I be able to hear it? I was like, well, technically yes, but it doesn't obey the rules of physics for some reason. And so we're left with just kind of like these theories, like, well, you know, what could that be? Why is that happening? And I'm just waiting for a breakthrough idea, you know, like and to try, you know, but I'm still left with I don't know. And the very first EVP or what I would consider an EVP that I ever recorded was with one of these microphones right here in my studio, a completely soundproof room, and my studio is attached to the dark room where my uncle used to develop his own photos and stuff back in the 60s and 70s. And I was talking to my uncle, you know, if you're here, can you let me know? And a voice, I can't tell if it was just like just like a sound. But there's no reason why that sound should have happened, because I was in a completely soundproof room and it sounded like it was in the room somewhere, but there was nothing to make that noise. So I've found that if it's strong enough, I mean, that's also theoretical, that no matter what microphone you have, it should pick it up. And I tend to lean more towards the not necessarily high dollar things, but I like stuff that I have control of, like the Tascam DR06, which is what I use. It's just a room recorder with 2 microphones on it, and I just let it sit in the room. And I've captured voices with that thing that, again, they have that phasing sound, you know, quite clear. You can hear there was tone to them and stuff. They weren't really, I really don't know what they were saying, because I've heard all kinds. That's another thing. The consensus is never the same. If I share an EVP with the 3 of you, and say, what do you think it said? I guarantee all three of you will say something different.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's what causes that to happen. I wish I knew the answer, Alex. I really do. Because if I did, then I'd be able to record them all the time.
Yeah. I'm almost of the mindset that maybe it's not something that's audible necessarily, but something that, I mean, going on the theory that we're talking about, spirits being energy form, is it not plausible then these energy forms are just directly imprinting something, whether it be through the digital or analog recorder?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't see why not. That's just as good an explanation as any other, I think. I also kind of think along the same line, like what you're saying. I don't necessarily believe that spirits hold human form. I don't think that they're just invisible people walking around. I tend to think that it's more a possibly some sort of core energy, but it inhabits the entire building. I mean, depending on how large the building is, but it inhabits the entire building, so it can hear and see you no matter what room you're in. Yeah. And when you see a ghost, when you see an apparition, my theory is that you're not actually seeing the entity itself. You're seeing a projection of what that entity remembers itself as. That's why ghosts wear clothes. Why would ghosts wear clothes? That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Because clothes aren't alive. There's no spirit to clothing. So the only thing I can come up with is that it's a projection that this entity is showing you. And perhaps what you're talking about, Alex, is sort of the same thing. It's not even audible at times. It's just projecting it, how it remembers its voice or whatever, you know.
I get a lot of questions about my recordings, especially overseas and stuff. Although I do get recordings in foreign languages, it's like, why do I also get recordings in English? And along with what you're saying, Jimmy, is I really believe that energy has an intention. You know, it's not necessarily actual function of formed words, but they come through in a translation of if you will, that we're receiving it as energy has more of an intention than it has an exact structure.
I mean, I would think, in the afterlife, if there is such a thing, and I'm not 100% convinced just yet, but if there's such a thing, language is not an issue.
Right.
Meaning that once you're in spirit form, you understand everyone understands you. So if a spirit tries to communicate to you and you speak English, that's how it's going to come through. If you speak French, it's going to come through as French. If you speak Portuguese, so on and so forth, right? It's not necessarily that they're speaking that language. That's how it's being sort of transmitted, because we, unfortunately, in the physical realm,
I have a question here. Hold on, let me backtrack. Okay. I investigated a haunting in a very old home. I captured an EVP in the closed garage that said leave, very loud and clear. The EVP bypassed 5 recorders. It bypassed 5 recorders and was captured all the way in the master bedroom on the other side of the house. Any thoughts? Michael, did you want to take
again, I think, in my view, I think it's the idea that all energy and all atmosphere is sort of connected, that you might be in one area of a location or whatever, but the actual wavelength or oscillation of energy that, because everything's energy, oscillation, wavelength, light energy, sound energy. So it all oscillates. It's all connected to atmospheric pressure of an environment. So does it seem unnatural to be able to pick up an answer to a responding answer to a question in one location that was posed in a further away location? Doesn't seem that implausible to me.
Yeah. I have questions regarding. So it was, from what I understand of the question, and maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. They said that it was recorded from the garage, right? But it bypassed 5 other microphones, and it only picked up in the back bedroom. How do they know that the source came from the garage? Is my first question. Yep. And is it possible? And I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade because I always think logically first. Is it possible? Do they live close to other people? Were there people outside? You know, these are things that have to be examined, I guess is the
absolutely. Absolutely.
But why is it that they think that it came from the garage when the recording device was in the master bedroom? How did they put that together is what I want to know. That's my question on it. Yep.
I mean, there's I mean, these are things that you have to take into consideration when you're, you want to make sure a location is you're able to control it as best as possible.
Now, if you have, go ahead. Sorry.
But I mean, that's not always going to be the case. But something like this, obviously, there could be some sort of outside interference from, as Jimmy pointed out, people outside maybe passing by or whatnot. You never know. But again, he's not okay. So no people outside. Not sure if it came from bedroom or garage. Could stray RF fracture and do this. Could stray RF fracture do this.
Okay, I think he's trying to say, could stray RF be the fracture, or could be something to that effect?
RF fracture do this. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, radio frequency. They're asking for it. I mean, yes, radio frequency can come through stuff like that, but typically when it comes to devices like this, there's a lot of RF shielding in place so that you don't have these kinds of problems.
And radio frequencies dropped off so much these days. There's so few stations out there, anymore. So many have closed down due to digital
internet.
Yeah, and typically when you have a radio frequency, you can tell it's a radio that's coming through because radio has a specific sound. That's that bright DJ voice, and the commercials are the same way. You know what I mean? And rarely do we have, I can't think of any radio programs like they used to have in the 50s and the 40s and stuff. You know what I mean? Where it was like a lot of spoken word. I mean, yeah, you have a lot of talk radio and stuff like that, but no more programs like The Shadow or Dick Tracy and stuff
That's
like that.
an awesome show, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's phenomenal.
I listen to those old radio classic shows. Are awesome.
Oh, they're classic. Yeah. They're classic.
Because The Shadow knows.
Because The Shadow knows, yeah.
Classic radio, there's really nothing like it. Like before
Johnny
TV
Dollar.
hit. Yeah. Even I think Perry Mason had some radio shows and stuff too.
Yeah.
But when you have 3 microphones in a room and 2 of those microphones didn't pick up the sound, but the third one did, then that's a little bit more interesting, right? Because theoretically, all 3 microphones, especially if they're the same device, they all have the same range. So they should all be hearing whatever it is, And it really is remarkable how sound from outside that you don't hear with your ears can travel into the house and into your microphone. I mean, Kenny Biddle was able to provide me with examples of this happening, and also examples of friction from like if you're holding the device and you're fidgeting with it, those sounds that you don't hear will be picked up on the microphone.
Oh, absolutely, yes,
and can turn into what sound like voices. I didn't think that was something that would happen, but when he showed me that happened, I was like, oh wow, okay. But to be fair, the ones that he was able to recreate with friction, yes, there were a few EVPs that I had that I'm like, okay, perhaps that's exactly what this is. But when it came to the I can't answer you or the where's Kent or right here, I mean those were voices in the room with us. I don't care what Kenny says.
But going back, I think there's a good argument for audio pareidolia that it's audio pareidolia, but we know as humans, we know the sound of other humans. I mean, that's something that's built into us, like, primordial almost. So we recognize a lot of the vocal qualities of, say, hey, that's human, and not robotic or audio pareidolia from crumpling leaves or what have you.
Right. Audio pollution that causes issues and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melissa wanted me to play this for you, Michael. She had captured something that was quite. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it properly or not on your end, but here's the raw audio, and then I kind of separated it as best as possible through Spectrum. Hold on a sec.
Please don't silence I've done it. That used to be an alarm. I don't recommend you go through the main doors. That will definitely set them off.
Are you playing it?
Yep.
I heard like a little and that was it.
Yeah, it's probably hard for you to hear. It's. Let me just see if the separated.
Maybe you could just send it to Michael.
I'll send it. Yeah, I'll send it to Michael too.
Please.
A lot of people are saying different stuff about it.
Yeah, I hear a female voice saying, please.
Please, and I got kind of a grace. It's kind of weird. But what I'll do, what I'll do is...
Well, did you see it as a female voice?
I originally did. When I first heard the audio, I heard what sounded like a female voice. What it's saying is a totally different story.
Right. I don't know exactly what it says. Could be based on, we all hear differently, like we all see colors differently because of the shape of our, what's it, caca? What do they call that? The inner tubes and the eardrum but that we were able to pick out that it was female, and I think more universally they'd be able to pick out, it's a young female, it's an old female, it's there's a lot of information in an EVP just besides what it says.
Mm-hmm.
So people should always pay attention to the other information there besides what the vocation is, the vocalization is, rather.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge problem when people are analyzing, audio. They don't take that into consideration. They just simply, will just go into it with it. I don't want to say blind eye, because you're not going in with a blind eye, but it just they're not focusing, I think, on the broader picture. When it comes,
they get hung up on one aspect of it.
Yes, one aspect, and there's so many levels that you really have to pay attention to. You really do.
Exactly.
Jimmy, I played one for you, I think, and Michael was taken from Waverly Hill Sanitarium, and it was captured. It was captured on. Yeah, it was captured on 2 different recorders in the same room. And it's really weird how the audio is so different,
right,
from recorder to recorder.
Mm-hmm.
It just is that an example of, look at this person heard differently than the other person heard on the other side of the room. Pretty much, right? I mean, only using a recorder as an example.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the one with the painting, and it was a French painting, right? And it was something about the cherry blossom or something.
Well,
it's
an English painting by it's called Cherry Ripe.
Okay. Which is also a name of a song.
Mm-hmm. English.
And then I suggested that we look at the French version of that song, and didn't you come up with that was what was being said? It was the French version of the song?
No, I thought it was, but no, that's not. No, it's not what it is, unfortunately.
last time we spoke about that.
We lost Michael. Oh, he's back. There we go. You know, I could hold on a sec. Let me just see if I can. I don't know if I have it here. Just an example. Let's see. And I think I played this for you, Michael. I think I did a while ago. Should I play the right version?
Let's hear it again. Yeah.
Make sure I get the right version of it. Yeah. Okay, here we go. And again, I don't know how well you'll be able to hear this, but let's go. Have I ever played that one for you, Michael?
I honestly don't remember hearing it. I remember the story, but I don't remember any of the audio. Can you play it again?
Absolutely. Hold on. Here we go.
Oddly enough, I would not be surprised if that were French.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's most definitely French. I guarantee that's French. It's just
the first part I can't catch, but I can catch the French and the second part, something about you.
And again, you can hear the room responding to the voice. Like you can hear her voice bouncing off the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, and there was nobody else in there, right? There was no women present.
On that, there was no children, whatever, women in that direct area. No, I mean everyone was downstairs in the kitchen area, and the camera guy, my camera guy, was upstairs in the bedroom level taking that. And again, as you can hear, like I'll play it one more time.
Yeah,
she's clearer than the other voices too.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Aujourd'hui, I heard aujourd'hui, possibly today, it means today.
Some sort of maybe a prayer, maybe a nursery rhyme.
Maybe it's
where was the location at?
It's one that I want you to come to. it's a Spruce Lake Farm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's one place I'd love you to go to, Michael. I think you'd love this place. It's the one again, the same place that I did the experiment with the children playing with the toys and replaying it. It's that very same house. It's a Spruce Lane farmhouse.
What state? Is it in the U.S.?
No, it's in Canada.
Canada. Oh, French Canadian. No wonder.
Mm-hmm. But I mean,
what part of Canada?
So
no, it's close to Steve, actually.
Yeah. So we're talking about. Well, you know where Hamilton is, right? You know Hamilton?
Ontario?
Yeah.
No.
You know Toronto, Ontario?
You know Toronto, right?
Right.
It's in
about
between.
Yeah, Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah. You know what? It's about
Okay.
a 3-hour drive from Sarnia. You remember Sarnia, right?
Okay.
Where Paracon
Yeah.
Can-Am was. Yeah, it's an intriguing little place, and we've been doing research.
Sounds
at that.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really incredible, especially when it had the thing that, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
no.
The idea that you can hear a male's voice, and even when you clear everything up, he still sounds behind a wall, whereas she sounds
right there
in the area. Yeah,
it's almost like she's in one of the back rooms on that level, and just sort of peering out and singing or reciting or whatever, just right there with them. You know, it's just odd. But it's not the only thing. Like I said, that place has been a gold mine for very subtle. It's very subtle, but it's so present. I mean, Alex, another person were very sick in a certain area of that house, in the same area, different times. It's kind of weird. It's an odd little place, but like I said, the history is rich of activity in terms of the people that have worked there over the years, and yeah. But I mean,
out there, Steve.
Sorry,
we should do a camp.
Yeah,
out
I'd
there.
love to go there. That'd be great.
Well, you know what? It's funny, Michael. Like I had the curator. I gave him a couple of Zoom recorders, and I said, yeah, just leave them in the house. Leave them in the house overnight, and I just want to record ambient noise. Like I want ambient audio from the house when it's all by itself, locked up, whatever else. And of course, sadly, because it's close to a highway, you get a lot of the noise pollution, the traffic pollution from the highway, but you still get some really, really intriguing little noises throughout I think it was about 5-6 hours worth of audio that I went through. Nothing really stood out other than, the sounds the house makes, but there's odd little oddities in there that just, it doesn't jive. It doesn't make sense unless there's somebody there, noises that would only be made if somebody was there. So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely not friction. It's not friction causing that. It's
No.
It's a voice. It's definitely a voice.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. But
Steve, if you ever want to set up a trip, let me know, man.
Sounds
like amazing.
Michael, anytime, man. Like I said, anytime. It maybe
I haven't really done a lot of work in Canada. I'd like to, though.
We usually do a lot of work at the house in August, September. Probably late July, early August. I mean, if your calendar's clear, yeah, you're more than welcome. I
got a trip to Japan about early. I think it's going to be earlier than that, though.
Yeah,
I'm going to do some work in a concert in Japan, but after about that time frame, I should be okay because it'll be before my my Pyrenees trip, my workshop.
Yeah, well, you're saying October for that, right?
That's in October, right? Probably around Halloweenish time.
Yeah, absolutely. I will keep you in the loop, Michael, and because I usually set it up with him. Usually going there once or twice a year, and usually set it up with him probably in late May, early June. Solidify the date and when we come in and that. So yeah, no, I'll keep you in the loop for sure. about that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't done anything in Canada since a vacant lots thing that I did in. We recorded vacant lots in Montreal, I think.
Oh yeah.
There's
Good old
some
Montreal.
record label that I did the show at. Yeah, it was called. I think it was called Vacant Lots. I think it was a show.
Montreal's got a lot of cool places too. Oh my God, that place is something else, man. Especially old Montreal. Ugh. Very, very historic. Very historic. So people who want to find Michael, where do they look? I've got links up there already, but just if there's anything.
Okay. I mean, basically, if you Google my name and then EVP after it, there's a ton. Otherwise, like Discogs or Bandcamp, you know.
I checked out your Bandcamp, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. You were doing something I've always wanted to do and thought about doing, where you make music out of EVPs. And,
right.
Yeah, it was just like, all right, this is interesting. You know, like it was really cool, the stuff that you were doing. It was really cool, the stuff that you were doing.
You know, it's interesting because I've gone recently, like the piece I'm working on now is like a neo-folk piece, but I had a Swedish black metal group contact me, and I actually literally had to dig up the grave in the cemetery to find it. But a guy from Horndal is the name of the band, and it's the town they come from, and they do like political black metal stuff. And they were doing this guy who pretty much almost started a revolution in labor revolution in Sweden, and got kicked out of the country and came to Chicago. And I had to find his grave. Anyway, I had to dig up the grave. They handed me a shovel, and they say it should be over that way somewhere. And I dug in the cemetery and found it, finally, after hitting a couple different cemeteries, and recorded there and took the voices and sent them. They built it into the album. And if you go on YouTube, there's a band called Clipping. It's kind of an industrial experimental hip hop band with David Diggs, the actor. It's his band. He was in Blackish and in Hamilton, and there's a song called "Pain Every Day," and there's a great video on YouTube that it's connected with. But he took all the EVP from Emmett Till's grave in Chicago, including like the screams and stuff that I captured, and he built them as the rhythm of the track. So "Pain Every Day" by Clipping, David Diggs, but it's very much a hip hop song as well as it is experimental, you know. But it's interesting of the different ways people can make these musics and these sounds work and the utility of them.
Yeah, it's like I said, and not tooting your horn, Michael, but I mean, when it comes to innovation and experimentation and furthering the work with EVP, I think I can only think of you know, really pushing things forward with the work that you've done in the past and continue to do. And I want to thank you for coming on, Michael. It's always a pleasure having you on, man. And I certainly do look forward to hooking up with you and doing some work with you. Definitely.
That'd be great. That'd be a lot of fun.
And
I appreciate you. I love your show, Steve. You know, and Jimmy, it's great meeting you, man, as well.
Yeah, you too, brother.
And of course, everyone. You know, I just I enjoy very much being on your show. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. You take care, and I will definitely stay in touch with you about who knows, possibly this summer.
Perfect. All right, everyone, take care.
All right, take care, Michael.
Take care, Michael.
I'm gonna drive home now. Okay, bye.
Bye. Yeah, well, thank you everybody for tuning in this evening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here on the New Visions Radio Network, and of course, our YouTube channel. Jimmy, thanks for popping in, buddy.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry it was so late getting
That's
in.
okay, man. It's all good. It just happy to have you on, man.
Yeah,
I got a parting piece of information.
Uh-oh.
So back to the example before that you said, Jimmy, about how you have 3 recorders in one location and only one picks it up.
Yeah.
What if that spirit or whatever it was targeting the individual who owned that recorder?
Yeah. That's also a thought. Yeah. See, when I went to Maine, what I was specifically looking for was EVPs.
Yeah.
Right. It was my very first investigation ever. And typically you don't get the red carpet treatment like I did when it comes to EVPs. So I wonder what you're saying about, I've thought about that. Yeah. I wonder if, because my intention was to find EVPs, is that why I found them, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a good thought.
Yeah. It's intriguing, man. That's what I love about, audio.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. And you're constantly trying to figure out, okay, where are these coming from? What are they? What do they mean? I mean, are we making contact, or are we hearing echoes from the other side, or are we just hearing echoes from the past? I mean, it all depends on what the EVP is all about. I mean, there's you have your residual, you have your intelligent, I've had some crazy stuff kind of responding. And I'm not talking about a spirit box or anything like that. I'm talking about a straight EVP, straight audio. So, I mean, it really makes you, I mean, what are your thoughts about that, Jimmy?
I mean, yeah, there could be, this stone tape theory and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Things like that could exist, but when it comes down to intelligent responses, that's not residual,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's intelligent like that, again, like, I'm not convinced that it's actually the spirits of the dead that we're hearing. It could potentially be that there's some sort of creature, some sort of like something that's alive but not biological that we don't understand. That could be what it's doing, and it's just messing with you. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, that's the question for me. And obviously I don't think I will ever figure it out, but man, does it make you feel amazing when you capture one,
A really good one, man. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you, like I said, it's funny that one that I played, the girl, the child or girl singing whatever, that it took me 10 years to pull that guy out. That was a part of the original recordings from when we first went into that house.
Yeah.
And I had only discovered it again because I was working on a documentary for it and going through some footage and watching that and going, wow, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
How? I mean, it's so distinctive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any number of reasons why you might have missed it, but it's a good thing you went back and found it later. If that you found it at all,
Exactly. It's definitely a wonderful sort of area to explore. And, Jimmy, I want to thank you for coming on. And we would love to have you back on the show again.
Yeah.
We would.
Well, yeah, the documentary is finished now. If you want to talk about that kind of stuff too,
absolutely,
or whatever, but even to just drop in and just throw around theories and talk about things, I'm down for whatever, man.
Oh, for sure, man. We'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
We'll set it up. We'll talk about the documentary, and we could talk about theories as well.
Right.
Cool.
Look forward to it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for everybody who tuned in and joined us on YouTube. Again, you've listened to Nocturnal Frequency Radio on the New Visions Radio Network, and of course, here on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next Sunday night. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.